Hello guys, today is 2nd April, and today we will be moving on to the next part of our daily challenge. And today we will be covering from page number 187 to page number 197. So, let's get started from page number 187, paragraph 1. Let's get started. After surviving 2 hell weeks and participating in 3, I was a native speaker. Hell week was home. It was the fairest place I have ever been in this world. There were no timed evolutions. There were nothing graded, and there were no trophies. It was all out of war of me against me. That's exactly where I found myself again when I was reduced to my absolute lowest on hospitality point. Why? Why are you still doing this to yourself, Goggins? Because you are one hard motherfucker, I screamed. The voices in my head were so penetrating, I had to bite back out loud. I was onto something. I felt an energy built immediately. As I realized that still being in the fight was a miracle in itself, except it wasn't a miracle, God didn't come down and bless my ass. I did this. I kept going when I should have quit 5 hours ago. I am the reason I still have a chance. And I remembered something else too. This wasn't the first time I had taken on seemingly impossible tasks. I picked up my pace. I was still walking, but I wasn't sleepwalking anymore. I had life. I kept digging into my past, into my own imaginary cookie jar. I remembered as a kid, no matter how fucked up our life was, my mother always figured out a way to stock our damn cookie jar. She would buy wafers and Oreos, Pepperidge Farm Milanos, and chips. Ahoy! And whenever she showed up the new batch of cookies, she dumped them into one jar. With her permission, we had get to pick 1, 2 at a time. It was like a mini treasure hunt. I remember the joy of dropping my first into that jar, wondering what I had found, and before I crammed the cookie in my mouth, I always took the time to admire it first, especially when we were broke in Brazil. I had turned it around in my hand and say my own little prayer of thanks. The feeling of being that kid locked in a moment of gratitude for a simple gift like a cookie came back to me. I felt it viscerally, and I used that concept to stuff a new kind of cookie jar. Inside it were all my past victories, like the time when I had to study 3 times as hard as anybody else during my senior year in high school just to graduate. That was a cookie. Or when I passed the ASVAB test as a senior and then again to get into BUDS, 2 more cookies. I remember dropping over 100 pounds in under 3 months, conquering my fear of water, graduating BUDS at the top of my class, and being named enlisted honor man in Army Ranger School. All those were cookies loaded with chocolate chunks. These weren't mere flashbacks. I wasn't just floating through my memory files. I actually tapped into the emotional state I felt during those victories, and in so doing accessed my sympathetic nervous system once again. My adrenaline took over. The pain started to fade just enough, and my pace picked up. I began swinging my arms and lengthening my stride. My fractured feet were still a bloody mess, full of blisters, the toenails peeling off almost every toe. But I kept pounding, and soon it was me who was slaloming runners with pained expressions as I raced the clock. From then on, the cookie jar became a concept I have employed whenever I need a reminder of who I am, what I am capable of, We all have a cookie jar inside us because life, being what it is, has always tested us. Even if you are feeling low and beat down by life right now, I guarantee you can think of a time or two when you overcame odds and tasted success. It doesn't have to be a big victory either, it can be something small. I know we all want the whole victory today, but when I was teaching myself to read, I would be happy when I could understand every word in a single paragraph. I knew I still had a long way to go to move from a third grade reading level to that of a senior in high school. But even a small win like that was enough to keep me interested in living and finding more within myself. You don't drop 100 pounds in less than 3 months without losing 5 pounds in a week first. Those 5 pounds I lost were a small accomplishment and it doesn't sound like a lot. But at the time it was a proof that I could lose weight and that was my goal. However improbable was not impossible. The engine in a rocket ship does not fire without a small spark first. We all need small sparks, small accomplishments in our lives to fuel the big ones. Think of your small accomplishments as kindling. When you want a bonfire, you don't start by lighting a big log. You can collect some witch's hair, a small pile of hay, or some dry dead grass. You light that and then add small sticks and bigger sticks before you feed your tree stump into the blaze. Because it's the small sparks which starts small fires that eventually build enough heat to burn the whole fucking forest down. If you don't have any big accomplishments to draw on yet, so be it. Your small victories are your cookies to savor. And make sure you do savor them. Yeah, I was hard on myself when I looked in the accountability mirror, but I also praised myself whenever I could claim a small victory because we all need that, and very few of us take the time to celebrate our success. Sure, in the moment we might enjoy them, but do we ever look back on them and feel that win again and again? Maybe that sounds narcissist to you, but I am not talking about bullshitting about the glory. Days here. I am not suggesting you crawl up your own ass and bore your friends with all your stories about what a badass you used to be. Nobody wants to hear that shit. I am talking about utilizing past successes to fuel you to new and bigger ones. Because in the heat of battle, when shit gets real, we need to draw inspiration to push through our own exhaustion, depression, pain, and misery. We need to spark a bunch of small fires to become the motherfucking inferno. But digging into the cookie jar when things are going south takes focus and determination because at first the brain doesn't want to go there. It wants to remind you that you are suffering and that your goal is impossible. It wants to stop you, it can stop the pain. That night in San Diego was the most difficult night of my life physically. I had never felt so broken, and there were no souls to take. I wasn't competing for a trophy. There was no one standing in my way. Sorry for the disturbance. Let's start again. So, where was I? Let's read this one once again. But digging into the cookie jar when things are going south takes focus and determination. Because at first the brain doesn't want to go there and it wants to remind you that you are suffering and that your goal is impossible. It wants to stop you so it can stop the pain. That night in San Diego was the most difficult night of my life physically. I had never felt so broken, and there were no souls to take. I wasn't competing for a trophy. There was no one standing in my way. All I had to draw on to keep myself going was me. The cookie jar became my energy bank. Whenever the pain got to be too much, I dug into it and took a bite. The pain was never gone, but I only felt it in waves because my brain was otherwise occupied, which allowed me to drown out the simple questions and shrink me. Each lap became a victory lap, celebrating a different cookie, another small fire. Mile 81 became 82, and an hour and a half later, I was in the 90s. I had run 90 fucking miles with no training. Who does that shit? An hour later, I was at 95, and after 99 of running almost non-stop, I had done it. I had hit 100 miles, or had I? I couldn't remember, so I ran one more lap just to make sure. After running 101 miles, my race finally over. I staggered to my lawn chair and Kate placed a camouflaged poncho liner over my body as I shivered in the fog. Steam poured off me. My vision was blurred. I remember feeling something warm on my leg, looked down and saw I was pissing blood again. I knew what was coming next, but the porta potties were about 40 feet away, which may as well have been 40 miles or 4,000. I tried to get up, but I was way too dizzy and collapsed back into that chair, an immovable object ready to accept the inevitable truth that I was about to shit myself. It was much worse this time. My entire backside and lower back were smeared with warm feces. Kate knew what an emergency looked like. She sprinted to our Toyota Camry and backed the car up on the grassy knoll beside me. My legs were stiff as fossil frozen in stone, and I leaned on her to slide into the back seat. She was frantic behind the wheel and wanted to take me directly to ER, but I wanted to go home. We lived on the second deck of an apartment complex in Chula Vista, and I leaned on her back with my arms around her neck as she led me up the staircase. She balanced me up against the stucco as she opened the door to our apartment. I took a few steps inside before blacking out. I came to on the kitchen floor a few minutes later. My back was still smeared with shit, my thighs caked in blood and urine. My feet was blistered up and bleeding in 12 places. 7 of my 10 toenails were dangling loose, connected my only tabs of dead skin. We had a combination tub and shower, and she got the shower going before helping me crawl toward the bathroom and climb into the tub. I remember lying there naked with the shower pouring down upon me. I shivered. I felt and looked like a death, and then I started peeing again. But instead of blood or urine, what came out of me looked like thick brown bile. Petrified Kate stepped into the hall to dial my mom. She had been to the race with a friend of hers who happened to be a doctor. When he heard of my symptoms, the doctor suggested that I might be in kidney failure and that I needed to go to the ER immediately. Kate hung up, stormed into the bathroom, and found me lying on my left side in the fetal position. We need to get you to ER now, David. She kept talking, shouting, crying, trying to reach me through the haze. And I heard most of what she said, but I knew if we went to the hospital, they had given me painkillers and didn't want to mask this pain. I had just accomplished the most amazing feat in my entire life. It was harder than Hell Week, more significant to me than becoming a SEAL, and more challenging than becoming deployment to Iraq because this time I had done something I'm not sure anyone had ever done before. I ran 101 miles with zero preparation. I knew then I had been selling myself short, that there was a whole new level of performance out there to tap into. That's the human body can withstand and accomplish a hell of a lot more than most of us think possible. And that is all begins and ends in the mind. This wasn't a theory, it wasn't something I had read in a damn book. I had experienced it firsthand on hospitality point. This last part, this pain and suffering, this was my trophy ceremony. I had earned this. This was confirmation, and I had mastered my own mind at least for a little while. And that what I had just accomplished was something special. As I lay there, curled up in the tub, shivering in the fetal position, releasing the pain, I thought of something else too. If I could run 101 miles with zero training, imagine what I could do with a little preparation. Thus, this chapter is over, and we have a new challenge now. Challenge 6. Take inventory of your cookie jar, crack down your journal, open again, write it all out. Remember, this is not some breezy stroll through your personal trophy room. Don't just write down your achievement hit list. Include life obstacles you have overcome, as well, like quitting smoking or overcoming depression or a stutter. Add in those minor tasks you failed earlier in life, but tried again a second or third time and ultimately succeeded at. Feel what it was like to overcome the struggles, those opponents, and win, then go to work. Set ambitious goals before each workout and let those past victories carry you to new personal bests. If it's run or bike ride, include some time to do interval work and challenge yourself to beat your best mile split, or simply maintain a maximum heart rate for a full time, then 2 minutes. If you are at home, focus on pull ups or push ups. Do as many as possible in 2 minutes, then try to beat your best. When the pain hits and tries to stop you short of your goal, dunk your fist in, pull out a cookie, and let it feel you. If you are more focused on intellectual growth, train yourself to study harder and longer than ever before, or read a record number of books in a given month. Your cookie jar can help there too, because if you perform this challenge correctly and truly challenge yourself, you will come to a point in any exercise where pain, boredom, or self doubt kicks in, and you will need to push back to get through it. The cookie jar is your shortcut to taking control of your own thought process. Use it that way. The point here isn't to make yourself feel like a hero for the fuck of it. It's not a hooray for me session. It's to remember what a badass you are, so you can use the energy to succeed again in the heat of battle. Post your memories and the new successes they fueled on social media and include the hashtags hashtag can't hurt me, hashtag cookie jar.